welcome to this explainer. You know, when most of us hear the phrase carbon markets, we instantly picture something kind of niche, maybe planting trees or checking a little box to offset a long flight. But beneath the surface of the global economy, what we're actually looking at is a massive, unseen financial engine that is actively rewiring international trade. We are talking about a fundamental structural transformation here, a system that is literally redirecting massive flows of global capital and completely reshaping geopolitical power dynamics. So today, we are going to map out exactly how this invisible machinery works, where its critical bottlenecks are, and why understanding this system is absolutely crucial for navigating the future of the global economy. Okay, let's just let this number sink in for a second. Nearly $1 trillion was traded in compliance carbon markets in 2024 alone. That scale is just staggering. This isn't charity, and it's not a PR stunt. This is a colossal financial titan. This number represents heavily regulated, legally mandated trading systems where massive industrial players are buying and selling the right to emit carbon. It proves that carbon is no longer just this abstract environmental concept. It is a fiercely traded commodity with a market cap that literally rivals major global industries. And the reason that market is pushing $1 trillion is directly tied to its sheer reach. These markets are structurally attempting to price a quarter of all global greenhouse gas emissions. Just think about what that means in practice. 1 out of every 4 tons of carbon emitted anywhere on Earth is now subject to a price tag generated by this system. This is a monumental shift from theoretical climate policy into hard, structural economic reality. We are quite literally monetizing and regulating the Earth's atmosphere at a systemic scale. But of course, that brings up a fascinating structural challenge. To understand the geopolitical force this is becoming, we have to ask, how does a system that trades in invisible emissions actually function? I mean, unlike oil or gold or wheat, you can't exactly put a carbon credit in a warehouse, right? You're trading the absence of something. You're trading a verified claim that a ton of gas was either not emitted in the first place or was actively sucked out of the atmosphere. And to make that invisible absence tradable, you need incredibly rigorous accounting, airtight legal frameworks, and unquestionable data. This unique challenge brilliantly illustrates the market's dual structure. It basically splits into 2 totally different worlds. On one side, you have the massive, legally mandated compliance carbon markets, or CCMs, sitting at that huge $947 billion mark. These are government-enforced cap-and-trade systems. If you're running a coal plant in one of these jurisdictions, you have no choice. You must buy these allowances. On the other side, you have the voluntary carbon markets, or VCMs, at just $535 million. The VCM is driven by corporate sustainability pledges, like a tech company choosing to offset its footprint. It's flexible, it's global, but as the numbers make painfully clear, it is completely dwarfed by the sheer gravitational pull of government compliance. Now, what's really interesting here is how geographically concentrated this all is. Look at this chart. The European Union's cap-and-trade system completely dominates, taking up a massive 85% of that global traded value. When we talk about compliance markets right now, we are overwhelmingly talking about Europe. The EU emissions trading system is the absolute anchor of this entire global ecosystem. But structurally, that 85% slice is also a major geographic vulnerability. For this system to truly rewire the globe, that remaining 15%, which represents emerging systems in places like China, North America, and India, is going to have to aggressively expand. Meanwhile, over in that voluntary market we talked about, they are facing a severe bottleneck. The VCM is currently struggling with a massive surplus of nearly 1 billion tons of unretired credits. Why? Because right now, supply is vastly outstripping demand. Project developers have generated absolute mountains of carbon credits, but corporate buyers are hesitating. They're sitting on their hands because of intense public scrutiny over whether these credits actually represent real, permanent emission reductions. This billion-ton overhang represents a massive crisis of confidence. So how do we fix that mismatch? Well, we are starting to see these fascinating hybrid models emerge to bridge the gap. Take CORSIA, for example, which targets international aviation. CORSIA takes the rigid legal mandate of a compliance system, forcing airlines to offset their emissions, and points that massive hose of demand directly at the verified offset projects in the voluntary space. It is a brilliant structural fix, using regulatory compliance to soak up that billion-ton surplus and force higher quality standards into the voluntary market. Because of all this, the way these credits are actually minted is undergoing a massive structural evolution. As you can see here, we are shifting away from small, one-off site projects, like capturing gas at a single local landfill, and moving toward massive jurisdictional and policy-based frameworks. Because, let's face it, you cannot reach global net zero one landfill at a time. To get the scale required, the market is structurally migrating to fund sweeping policy changes, like Uzbekistan's program to remove fossil fuel subsidies entirely. We are literally moving from funding standalone projects to funding entirely new economic policies. But whether we're talking about a single landfill or an entire country's economy, the absolute linchpin for this entire system is a concept called additionality. Honestly, it is the most important word in carbon markets. Additionality simply means this. If a project would have happened anyway without the financial incentive of the carbon credit, then that credit lacks environmental integrity. If a company was already planning to build a highly profitable wind farm, you can't pay them carbon credits for it. Without additionality, you aren't actually reducing global emissions, you're just shuffling money around. And this brings us right back to that integrity challenge we mentioned earlier. Proving additionality requires incredibly exact baselines. It requires guaranteeing that a protected forest won't just burn down 10 years from now, which would ruin the permanence of the credit. And crucially, it demands equitable benefit sharing with the indigenous communities who actually live on these lands. This whole complex web is actively being tackled by new governance bodies. Groups like the ICVCM are stepping up, effectively acting like central banks for trust, trying to standardize exactly what makes a credit bulletproof so those corporate buyers finally get off the sidelines. This intense push for integrity has directly catalyzed a massive technological maturation. To restore trust, the plumbing of the system had to evolve. We are moving rapidly from the clunky manual registry systems of the past, which were heavily prone to double counting, to highly sophisticated digital exchanges like ACX and CIX. And looking just a bit further down the road, we're seeing the integration of blockchain platforms like CarbonMark to guarantee verifiable traceability. Soon, every single ton of carbon will be mathematically trackable from the exact second it is issued to the moment it's retired. And as that technology matures, traditional finance is stepping in to wire this market into the mainstream economy. We are seeing major traditional institutional players arrive on the scene. For instance, 9 global banks have thrown their weight behind a centralized settlement infrastructure called CarbonPlace. This is a real game changer. It signals that the carbon market is shifting out of its bespoke, slightly experimental phase and into a normalized institutional-grade financial asset class that can scale securely across global banking networks. Now, why are the massive global banks rushing in? Well, because this digital evolution is opening up huge financial opportunities, specifically in risk management. Look at this. The EU ETS alone generated 648 billion euros in secondary derivative trading in 2023. We're talking futures, options, and hedges. This proves the sophisticated financialization of carbon is already here. Corporations aren't just buying credits to offset their guilt anymore. They're using complex derivatives to hedge their long-term climate compliance risks on the open market. And it goes beyond derivatives. We're also seeing the creation of completely innovative debt instruments built entirely around this system. A perfect example is the World Bank pioneering what they call outcome bonds, like the Amazon reforestation-linked bond. In this model, the bond's payout to investors is directly tied to the successful generation of verified carbon credits. It is a brilliant systemic evolution. It takes the colossal power of the global bond market, uses it to front-load capital for climate solutions, and pays investors back based on verified environmental success. When you look at the system as a whole, it is undeniably working at a macroeconomic level. Just last year, this infrastructure successfully mobilized over $100 billion for public budgets globally. That is a massive systemic injection of capital that governments are collecting from carbon pricing and, ideally, reinvesting right back into green infrastructure, grid modernization, and societal adaptation. It is a structural transfer of wealth that penalizes pollution to directly fund the global transition. Finally, we have to look at how these financial mechanics are redrawing the map of global trade. At the UN level, frameworks like Article 6 of the Paris Agreement are officially setting the rules for countries to trade emissions reductions bilaterally. They are essentially treating carbon like a sovereign export. But perhaps the most aggressive, most consequential catalyst right now is the European Union's Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, or CBAM. This is where carbon pricing officially becomes a hard geopolitical weapon. By explicitly taxing carbon-intensive imports, things like steel and cement, right at the border. The EU is literally forcing its global trading partners to adapt. Think about it. If you want to sell your steel to Europe, you have to pay Europe's carbon price at the border. Unless, of course, you already paid a carbon price in your home country. It's an incredibly aggressive mechanism that forces nations worldwide to adapt their own domestic compliance systems just so they can keep that tax revenue at home and stay economically competitive. Which brings us to the ultimate strategic implication of all this. As this trillion-dollar system matures from a web of fragmented registries into a centralized, highly financialized geopolitical force, we want to leave you with this final thought. As these new global trade lines are permanently redrawn, will your region, your industry, or your business be a price maker or a price taker in the new net zero economy?